belongs to service providers who innovate without limits. That's why the fastest growing service providers are choosing the NetSapiens platform. Visit netsapiens.com.
Hey everybody, it's Doug Green and I'm the publisher of Technology Reseller News, and I'm very happy to be with Nima Hakimi, who is the CEO of Convoso. Nima, thank you for joining me today.
Yeah, great to be here, Doug. Thank you for having me.
So you guys have added an app to basically to the Salesforce Exchange. We're going to be talking about that. We're going to be talking about what gap that kind of fills with Salesforce. But first, what is Convoso?
Great question. Convoso, we're an outbound sales platform built for B2C revenue teams and contact centers, where we unify high-performance dialing, campaign management, and number management into a revenue-generating engine for businesses that specifically rely on calling for customer acquisition. And over the years, and now we work with several hundred businesses across industries such as insurance, home services, lead generation, and ultimately our goal is to help them connect with their leads faster, convert more, and then reduce ultimately their customer acquisition costs.
So Nima, I already have Salesforce. I already have the contact center. We're already doing outbound calls. Why do I need Convoso?
Great question. There are a lot of platforms out there and CCaaS platforms that integrate with Salesforce, right? You have the nicest of the world, Five9, Genesys, and they all do it. Great companies. The only challenge is they're not really purpose-built for outbound and for sales. They really focuses on inbound customer service, and certainly they have capabilities in the outbound. But the outbound world is a different, totally different beast, and the challenges that present themselves. Whereas, what we do, our core focus for the past 20 years has been in outbound and in sales and B2C sales. So we see the challenges that come ahead, and we know how to go about them, and we address them. There's a lot going on, as we know, with number management, and your call is being flagged as scam or spam, and compliance is changing and ever evolving. So for us, it's we're filling this gap of addressing those inside sales teams that have a hard time connecting with their leads. They're just sitting there waiting idle for leads to connect that they've spent a lot of money on generating. And what we find is most platforms out there, like Five9 or Genesys or others, they don't really think ahead on what's happening with the changes in regulations. Or if you look at your iPhone call screening feature, for example, right? That's something that you have to address. Things like that come up essentially where we stay ahead of the game by addressing pain points and challenges that they may not prioritize as much as we do.
So it sounds like this is much more than just something that helps organize the outbound calls, because what I think I'm hearing is you already have the lead, but you're really going to have to take some action to basically get that lead activated in some way, right?
Yeah, it's not. So a dialer is very simple, right? Anybody can have a dialer, clicking, calling, giving the call to connect. That's not really where the value comes in, but it's the speed to lead. It's the answering machine detection. It's how good of a job we do at detecting the difference between a human picking up the phone versus going to a voicemail. It is those types of things. Or what happens when the person doesn't pick up when you make that first call, right? There's a lot of logic that you need to think through on a lead management and engagement side to get the lead to convert. As we know, if you call them the first time, they may not pick up, they might be busy at the time. So we have this really sophisticated campaign management engine where you build workflows that determine what happens in a certain sequence of events. And it does that at scale when you have, thousands or tens of thousands of leads in a larger operation. In order to do that, it's a lot more of a sophisticated processing to put in place rather than when you have a small team where you only have, a handful of leads you got to connect.
So spam, we all hate it. No one likes it, but for so many of our listeners and watchers, it's also necessary to make these outbound calls to perform this lead generation task. You're saying basically you're able to avoid spam labeling. How do you do that?
Well, yeah, I would say, look, avoiding is a challenge because nobody can avoid it per se. The challenge is that these the analytics companies, they serve a certain purpose, but it's a bit of a black box. Nobody knows why a call gets flagged or blocked. The one thing I will say is over dialing is a thing. Having consent on your leads is no longer enough. Having consent was good enough years ago. Today, you have to have a responsible outreach strategy. And that is how you're going to manage things. Where we come in is we provide the visibility into your numbers and ensuring that you utilize the best numbers that are going to get connected and get answered and deprioritize the numbers that get flagged. However, at the same time, we have a dialing cadence that you can set up to where you set it up responsibly so that you're not dialing the same person excessively, and that's going to get you flagged, right? But most systems, in order to set that up, to figure out when do you call them again or send them a text message and have an omni-channel approach, it's not so simple to do in most platforms. So for us, you set up the cadence, you say you want to call them right now, try again maybe in 2 hours, then maybe at the end of the day, and then maybe try again tomorrow, and then in 3 days from now. Space it out. And by doing that, you're going to minimize the chances of it being flagged. But also, again, we manage the health and monitor every number that you're calling out of so that if it gets flagged for whatever reason, you're not losing out on the ability to connect with a consumer who filled out the form, who's looking to talk to you for, maybe insurance or getting an appointment for them to come and see, they have a roof that they want to get replaced. So having that real-time visibility allows our customers to minimize the damage and impact of their numbers being mislabeled by the analytics engines or telco carriers.
So this is very important, right? In other words, I already have consent. I already have, Nima said, yeah, please call me. I need a quote on my roof. But the way it's being done, the same customer says, I think this is spam, or his system thinks it's spam. So you guys have figured out a way for that not to happen.
Yeah, I mean, that's a core piece of it. I would say never is not possible. You minimize it. Anybody who claims that, and that's kind of where half the battle is like understanding what is causing it. But yeah, we have a built-in system that manages that and reduces the impact of it. It does it automatically. It gives you the numbers that you need for your campaigns in an outbound environment. You might have different quality of leads that you're either purchasing or generating. You might be generating them on Facebook, on Google, or you might be buying it from a third party. And how you maintain the workflow of how you engage those leads, it's something you can customize within our platform. What we find most outbound teams, when they have an inside sales team in their outbound calling, there's no strategy in place on how you engage that lead. So all everyone knows is just keep dialing, keep calling. And that's part of what gets you flagged. So our solution helps you monitor it. It helps you find a way to better engage the leads so you're not over dialing and harassing the consumer, right? Everybody wants to respect. You want to provide a good customer experience, and our solution helps you do that. And what we found is that the Salesforce AppExchange, there's not a lot of solutions out there that have the suite of a high-performing dialer, campaign management, along with number management, all in one to be able to do that. You really need those three pieces to be successful in outbound today if you're doing B2C sales, where you have a good amount of volume of leads coming in that you need to convert and get on the phone.
And the functionality, I mean, getting beyond the issue of actually getting to the customer, which is very important. Your system basically unifies the dialing campaign management. It keeps you in compliance, and it provides a single workflow.
Yeah, it's connected. You don't need to. There's a lot of compliance tools out there, but whether it's the reassigned number database, or if you do need to scrub against the do not call list, or there's different mini TCPA rules with different states that you have to comply and do different things and dial a certain number of times. It's all built in within the platform. You set it, you configure it, you're safe and ready to go. With the campaign management, you don't need to integrate with another system to have logic built in that determines, when to dial the lead, how often, when to stop, when to move it to a different campaign. All of that is automated. And the dialer itself with different, has predictive dialing, it has preview dialing, it has the speed to lead, so you can get the lead on the phone quickly. It's all within our platform. We found that when you have it all built in, you don't need to go to 3 different vendors to do that. And we all know integrations can be a bit of a challenge, right? No matter who says they can integrate with what platform. Anytime you start to bolt on too many things, it creates inefficiencies. And in outbound especially, it's very risky, because if something doesn't trigger within all of the different systems, now you might be calling someone who said, don't call me anymore, right? And if they're not all connected, you might be out of compliance. So for us, we've built this really powerful suite that has it all under one platform. And that's why we feel like when our customers get on, they're able to, we see the results. They have a higher contact rate, conversion rate, and they do it in a compliant manner.
So Nima, you go to the agent exchange marketplace on Salesforce. What happens next?
Yeah, I mean, you go on there. It isn't hey, let's just plug and play, sign up self-service. But what happens there is you go on there. There's a link there that we get notified as soon as there's interest. And what we do is we have a deep discovery conversation with you to understand what your challenges are, and from there we can get you up and live within a couple of weeks. So the platform is really built in a really streamlined way, that it doesn't take you 6 months, which is what I've heard from others, a 6-month process to get you up and live. We can get you up and live within a few weeks. We're very much white glove support, understanding what your challenges are, implementation process. If it makes sense and it's necessary, we'll come on site. But generally speaking, we're talking about a few weeks of a process, and then we get you up and dialing. And thereafter, we are very engaged with our customers over a long period of time to ensure that there's success beyond just the initial implementation period.
Nima, I really want to thank you for joining me today. This has been excellent. It sounds like the best way to find out more is to actually go to the Salesforce Agent Exchange. Is that right?
Yeah, you'll go there and you can learn more. And then if you're interested, just reach out and we'll have a deeper conversation.
And it sounds like as we close up, it's a bespoke experience. In other words, your team isn't just giving you a vanilla solution. It's a little bit customized.
It's very customizable because every business has their own requirements. So we tailor it according to your needs, and it's been built that way to be very, very customizable and configurable.
Well, I look forward to learning more about this in the future, and I want to do that live demo or at least, recorded demo. I'd like to actually see what it kind of looks like in action the next time we do this. But for now, Nima, thank you very much indeed.
Definitely. Likewise. Thank you, Doug. Good to have you.
Innovate without limits, scale without compromise, and never pay per seat again. Discover why providers choose netsapiens.com.